it's a pleasure meeting you, Brian. Thank you for joining me today. I'd love to dive in and hear more about your journey at Choice Hotels. Could you start out by just telling me a little bit about who you are, what you do, what makes your day full of excitement?
I'm the CIO at Choice, which basically means I'm in charge of all the technology. But what really drives me and what makes us exciting for what we do at Choice is we're really three companies in one. We're a hospitality company, we're a franchising company, and we're a technology company. And the technology part is a big part of our DNA, of who we are and the value we provide for our franchisees and guests. And that's the stuff that's exciting, right? Turning technology and making business value out of it.
Data is at the core of everything we do. It empowers us to make decisions. It allows us to go fast. It allows us to learn. Could you tell me a little bit about how you treat data? Tell me about your data journey.
Sure.
Tell me about how you all think of data and how you use it to make decisions.
Data's everything, right? At the end of the day, what we're able to do now in the cloud, we could not even fathom years ago. But we had to start that journey a long time ago to be in a position where we are today, to do things with it that are meaningful for our guests and drive value for the business. We started that journey many years ago, and we were the first hotel company to commit to going all in with AWS. That 5-year journey is wrapping up within a month. And the whole goal was to be in the cloud, be able to move fast and take advantage of the technology that's out there. We've done a lot of that blocking and tackling. We've done a lot of the migration. We've modernized things as we came out. We actually built our entire data analytics platform, purpose-built in the cloud, all on AWS. So it's got all the technology you can imagine, really powering the data engine behind the scenes so that we can get out of the way and let the business go solve problems. And now you see things happening with ML and AI and Gen AI and all those things. We can take advantage of that where we couldn't in the past. When I first got there, if you think about the things you can do with AI, you're taking data and millions of data points from all over the world and trying to do something meaningful. If you try to do that with a human, it'd take you forever to do one example of one pricing algorithm, right? Now you can do it on scale. You can do it fast. You make decisions quickly. So it's something that we really have leaned into as a company. It's part of our DNA as a company. It's part of our goals as an executive team to drive value through data. And we put a ton of focus around really how do we leverage our data to make decisions everywhere from franchisees to guests to operations to where we even choose to build a hotel.
So if I asked you what was your biggest lesson or the most significant lesson you learned from this journey, what would that be?
Most significant lesson I learned, I think reinforcement of the purpose and value of the cloud is a big part of that. If you think about the pandemic, for example, data told you one thing before the pandemic about what guests wanted to do, where they wanted to be, how they wanted their experience to be, the types of things that matter to them, and even what kind of traveler they are. Pandemic changed everything instantly for everybody. You have people now that want to go and do something different, right? They have a different expectation when they show up on property. Their travel patterns are different. They might, put a work trip in the beginning and end of a vacation now, right? And a lot of those types of things have changed, and so KPIs and the way you use data before, completely different now. And so the ability to pivot quickly, look at your data and react quickly, you can't do unless you're in the cloud, leveraging the power and the tech that exists out there, because you can pivot quickly. You can use scale that you couldn't imagine otherwise. You can reevaluate everything that you hold true to figure out what's true now and where does the guest want to be tomorrow, where does the franchisee need to be in their new world.
So you touched on the power of data. Then you went into what you can do with data beyond decision making and basic analytics, but you got into the machine learning and AI space. Then you went into the proliferation of data because of COVID. So behaviors change. But if we also think about the amount of data we now have access to, because everybody, even people that weren't tackling the digital world, became digital friendly. So now the amount of data you possess is enormous. Can you tell me how you see and how you have leveraged that data and this massive transformation you've been on to accelerate your artificial intelligence and machine learning journey and how AWS plays a part in that?
It's everywhere in everything that we do. I mean, we're taking data in. So we just launched during the pandemic, actually, the first of its kind revenue management system that's mobile enabled. So now a franchise owner can sit on a beach, they can sit in their hotel room, they can sit at home, and they can manage profitability for their business and sit there and look at rate recommendations and revenue strategies for their property. And on the back end, we're using AI and ML to take data from all over the world. It's public data, there's private data, merging all that together, figuring out what is the best rate recommendation for that hotel room on that day, for that rate plan, for that guest. Do that for every single room and rate type they have. many times a day, in real time feed that recommendation to them. And they can opt in, they can opt out, they can decide what to do about it. But it helps drive profitability for that franchisee. It helps drive the right experience or right options for the guests. And it's really all powered by AI and ML. And it's just one example of where we're using the power that we've built on the cloud with AWS to enable business value.
Generative AI has really changed the landscape in a matter of months.
Yeah.
And it will change the way we do business, not only for productivity, but for profitability. Can you talk to us a little bit, or talk to me a little bit about how Choice is thinking about and planning to leverage generative AI in services such as Bedrock?
You nailed it on the head. I think Gen AI came out, and it was not, I mean, AI has been around forever, but the reality is it became tangible and accessible, and now everybody realizes the power of it, and it's something they can average or interact with and use on their daily life. And so that created a lot of opportunity. Now, if you look at our guests, they've always struggled with what is the right decision for me. There's too many options on hotels and where to visit and all those things, and they're leaning in on things like generative AI to say, help me through this process, right? And so that's one area in hospitality that's huge, is to really help the guests find the right property and the right experience for their visit or their journey. On the other side of the coin, generative AI really can help operations, right? It can help us with our franchise owners, 12,000 different people all coming to the website trying to figure out, how do I do this? What's the approach for that? What's the right way to follow this brand standard? All those types of rules and regulations or best practices or even tips and tricks. The tools now make it easier for them to actually find the information so they can move faster, which takes our operations teams out of the mix so they can focus on other business value things, right? The franchisee can get the data themselves really quick and really easily. And there's many, many more examples like that. That's excited about the stuff we're doing with AWS around the unified profiles of travelers and guests, because we're the pilot customer with that product. And it's really helping us take all of the different personas that we have and all of the different data we have about what we think guests are, but merge it with the fact that we have guests coming from everywhere. If you think about it, my job is to distribute and make sure that we sell every single room in every single hotel exactly once every single day. That's complicated when you're dealing with thousands of websites that are all serving up your product and trying to sell that same finite one room every single night. And so with the power of the work we're doing there, we can figure out more about the guest that's coming from this website, the guest that's coming from this website, our own content on our own website, build a better picture of who we think they are, and help with that merge capability. So then we can make the right recommendations. We can make the right behavior traits for what they want, what the website should do, the personalization we can do on the website for them. There's a lot of power there, and the Gen AI behind the scenes that's helping us with that merging capability is something we're excited about.
Yeah, unified profiles could be a game changer. Something that's near and dear to my heart is Amazon Personalize and just the art of personalization. And I think that generative AI merged with personalization will be it is and will be even more transformative for your guests, your franchisees. I think that especially if you think about Generation Z and Generation Y, they command, and it's the difference with brand loyalty, if they stick or they leave, the art of personalization. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Choice is approaching personalization, where machine learning plays a part, and where you've already seen the lift with your customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, UPT is a big part of that coin and that equation that we're trying to lean in on to help us get even better at it. But we've been using personalization all the way from site optimization to the marketing and advertising that we do, and even in the back end, trying to make sure that we're matching the experience on property with the guests and the franchise owner that's serving them when they're in the middle of their stay, right? So there's a lot of work that we do, whether it's taking the website experience that they want, the history of what they've done, and even looking at the persona we think they are and what they might be trying to do on that vacation or on that work trip, and match them with the right offerings, right? Match them with the right type of experiences. There's a lot we do and a lot we can do on that front. But if you think about it, in my world, I deal with guests as a core customer base. I deal with franchisees as another core customer base, and serving them is a whole different part of the AI equation. It's the same kind of power underneath, right? It's how do we make sure that they're efficient in how they operate their hotel? How do we help make sure that they're making sure the way they go through their daily job is efficient and optimized, as far as, let's just say we're doing maintenance, and make sure that you know what's the right timing and sequence of doing something based on the data that we have, all the way to where do you build a hotel or where do you move a hotel, those types of decisions.
So we've talked about data transformations and the power of data. You and I have sat here and discussed AI and ML. When you think about partnerships with companies outside of Choice, and you think about advertising, or you think about gaining insights for better customer experience or better franchisee experience, what comes to mind to me is AWS Data Clean Rooms. We've heard all the great features they've launched and all the continued privacy-enhancing capabilities they're launching. Tell me how you think about privacy-enhanced data sharing and where something like AWS Clean Rooms comes into the picture.
Today, one of the roundtables I sat in with the industry I'm in was specifically around clean rooms. I see a huge opportunity. If you look at the reality of what's happening in commercial side of the house, you got cookieless world coming, right? And you're losing the ability to interact that way. But you also see the opportunity with AI and ML and the amount of data that we have, and you merge it with something like Prime, or you merge it with one of our OTAs or somebody else, and figure out how to share data in a secure way, in a confident way to build a better experience for your guests and customers, and figure out opportunities for how to leverage the clean rooms to get rid of the fear that has existed in the past around sharing data with potential competitors. And to me, that's a huge opportunity and a lot of opportunity to come up with new ways to do business and new ways, even in our industry. If you think about like what I mentioned before, we're serving hundreds and hundreds of websites all trying to sell one room and for that one guest, and we're trying to make it the best experience for them holistically for their journey. If we can get in clean rooms and start doing that between airlines and hotels and even before that, shopping on Prime to figure out what you're buying and what kind of vacation you're trying to have, the better we can make that experience for our guests, the more we can personalize it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Clean Rooms is a game changer, and the recent capabilities with AWS Clean Rooms machine learning and AWS Clean Rooms differential privacy will totally transform the way companies adapt and adopt it. Help me understand how you bring your employees, which are an equally as important asset as your customers, along the journey to make sure you're hyper successful.
A big part of that is just making sure that you get out of their way and empower them so they can learn and educate and listen. We do our own version of a week-long event dedicated entirely to innovation and learning, and we bring in experts all over the place to help them just think big, think different, think broader, look at new ways of doing business. And we're trying to carry the business along in that equation as well. And a lot of the stuff we're doing, even with Gen AI right now, going back to that topic, is trying to expose them to what's possible and then put guardrails and governance around it to make sure that they do it safely and securely, and just get out of the way. So it's like training, but train, and then when you're done, train again, and just open up the opportunity for them to get that exposure, because the reality is they have the great ideas. You just got to get the tools in their hands.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you. This was fun.